Remember when love stories took time? When romance meant waiting by the phone, writing letters that took days to arrive, and falling for someone slowly over shared conversations and stolen glances? Now, we swipe through hundreds of faces in minutes, match with strangers we'll never meet, ghost people without a second thought. 350 million people are using dating apps right now. That's more than the entire population of the United States. And yet, 78% of them report feeling completely burnt out. So here's the question that keeps coming up. Can modern dating, with its algorithms, curated profiles, and instant gratification, ever truly deliver the epic, soul-stirring romance of the love stories that define generations? Today, we're diving deep into the paradox of modern romance, and the answer might surprise you. Let's rewind for a moment. Dating apps didn't start as the swiping machines they are today. They promised us something revolutionary. In the beginning, online dating was almost romantic. You'd write detailed profiles, read through someone's interests, their dreams, what they were looking for. It took effort. It took time. Then came the smartphone revolution, and everything changed. Tinder launched in 2012 with a simple promise: turn dating into a game. Swipe right if you're interested, swipe left if you're not. Mutual interest, you match. Simple, efficient, addictive. And it worked. Maybe too well, because what they'd actually created wasn't just a dating app. They'd gamified human connection. Studies show that swiping on dating apps triggers the same dopamine response as slot machines. Every swipe is a micro hit of possibility. Every match, a small win. And just like gambling, you keep coming back for more. The average user spends 90 minutes per day on dating apps, 90 minutes of judging and being judged based on a handful of photos and a witty bio. But here's where things get dark. The paradox of choice. It's a psychological phenomenon that's been studied for decades, and dating apps are the perfect storm for it. When you have too many options, you actually become less satisfied with your decisions. You second guess yourself. You wonder if someone better is just one more swipe away. It's called decision fatigue, and it's why you can spend 2 hours swiping through 200 profiles and barely remember a single face by the end. Everyone starts to blur together. The accountant who loves hiking, the teacher who enjoys travel, the entrepreneur with a dog, they all become cards in an endless deck. And even when you do match with someone, even when that initial conversation seems promising, there's ghosting. 76% of dating app users have either ghosted someone or been ghosted themselves. That's 3 out of every 4 people. The most common reason given? Different expectations. But the real reason is simpler. It's easier to disappear than to have an uncomfortable conversation. Why deal with rejection or awkwardness when you can just vanish? Then there's the lying, the catfishing, the carefully curated fiction we all participate in. 1 in 5 people admit to lying on their profiles, and we're not just talking about adding an inch to your height, though that definitely happens. We're talking about photos from 5 years ago, jobs they don't have, relationship statuses that aren't accurate, sometimes entirely different people. Everyone's presenting their highlight reel, their best angle, their most flattering filter, and somehow we're all supposed to find authentic connection in this hall of mirrors. But perhaps the most disturbing part? The algorithm itself. Dating apps claim they can find your perfect match. They'll tell you their algorithms analyze compatibility, shared interests, values alignment, but here's what they're actually optimized for: keeping you on the app. Think about it. If you found your perfect match on the first day, you'd delete the app. No more ad revenue, no more premium subscriptions, no more boosts and super likes. The dating app industry is worth over $5 billion, and that money doesn't come from successful relationships. It comes from keeping you single and swiping. A study from 2024 found that dating apps prioritize popularity over fairness. If you're not in the top tier of attractiveness according to their algorithm, you might as well be invisible. Your profile gets shown to fewer people. You get fewer matches. The rich get richer. It's high school all over again, except now there's data proving it, numbers quantifying your desirability, metrics measuring your worth. No wonder 79% of Gen Z reports feeling burnt out by dating apps. We're being judged in split seconds, ghosted without explanation, constantly wondering if we're even being seen by the people we're trying to reach. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, is this really what love is supposed to feel like? Let's take a trip back to when love stories unfolded in movie theaters, when we believed in romance that took time, when falling in love was a journey, not a destination. The 90s gave us some of the most iconic love stories ever told, not because they were unrealistic, though, let's be honest, some definitely were, but because they showed us something we desperately wanted to believe in. That love was worth waiting for, worth working for, worth fighting for. The enemies to lovers arc, two people who start out hating each other, or thinking they do. They clash, they argue, they push each other's buttons in ways no one else can. But slowly, through forced proximity or circumstance, they start to see past the surface. They realize the person they thought they hated is actually exactly what they need. Take Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth and Darcy don't just decide to stop hating each other one day. They have to confront their own flaws. Darcy realizes he's been arrogant and prejudiced. Elizabeth sees her own quick judgments and assumptions. They have actual conversations, deep, meaningful, sometimes painful conversations that change them as people. They grow, they evolve, and by the time they finally admit their feelings, we've grown with them. Then there's the slow burn, the will they, won't they, that keeps you on the edge of your seat for 2 hours. And you've got Mail. Kathleen and Joe are business rivals who unknowingly fall for each other through anonymous email exchanges. They spend months, getting to know each other's minds before they ever know each other's faces. Every email is thoughtful, carefully composed. They share their hopes, their fears, their dreams. They build emotional intimacy without the pressure of physical attraction clouding their judgment. And when they finally discover who they've been talking to, the payoff is incredible because they've already fallen in love with each other's souls. Forbidden Love, Romeo and Juliet, Jack and Rose, Noah and Allie. These stories work because the obstacles make the love feel more precious. They're willing to risk everything, their families, their futures, sometimes their lives, because what they found is rare, it's real, and it's worth any price. The obstacles aren't just plot devices, they're tests. They prove that this love can survive anything, that it's strong enough to weather any storm. And then, the grand gesture. The moment when someone puts their heart on the line, when they risk public embarrassment, rejection, everything, just to show someone how they feel. Holding a boombox outside someone's window, running through an airport, writing letters every day for a year. These gestures weren't about the grand spectacle, though they certainly were spectacular. They were about vulnerability, about saying, I see you, I know you, and I'm willing to look like an idiot because you're worth it. So what do all these love stories have in common? Time, obstacles, growth. These weren't instant connections. Noah waited years for Allie. Harry and Sally were friends for over a decade before they got together. Elizabeth and Darcy spent months misunderstanding each other before they figured it out. The obstacles weren't annoyances to overcome. They were essential to the story. They forced the characters to prove their love, to fight for it, to choose it actively and repeatedly. And the growth? That's what made it all matter. These characters weren't the same people at the end that they were at the beginning. Love changed them, made them better, more complete. Compare that to a dating app conversation. You match, you exchange a few messages. Hey, how's your week going? What do you like to do for fun? You meet for drinks if you're lucky, and then nothing. Ghost. Unmatch. On to the next. When someone wrote you a letter in the past, they had to think about what they wanted to say. They couldn't unsend it. They couldn't hide behind emojis or leave you on read. Every word mattered. Every sentence was intentional. Now, we can edit, delete, unsend. We can craft the perfect message, or we can send a lazy @lol and call it conversation. The depth that came from hours of face-to-face conversation, from learning someone's patterns and quirks and the way they think, you can't build that through text messages and carefully curated photos. You can't develop that kind of intimacy when you're constantly performing, when every interaction is a highlight reel, when vulnerability is seen as weakness instead of connection. But here's where we need to be honest. Were those classic love stories really better, or have we just romanticized them beyond recognition? Let's talk about what we're really romanticizing when we talk about the good old days of romance. In the 1950s, women weren't supposed to call men. They had to wait. Wait for him to call, wait for him to ask them out, wait for him to propose. Their entire romantic fate was in someone else's hands. Women couldn't have their own credit cards in the US until 1974, couldn't get their own bank accounts without a male cosigner in many places. Divorce was scandalous. Domestic violence was a private matter. Interracial marriage was illegal in parts of America until 1967. Being openly LGBTQ+ could get you arrested, institutionalized, or worse. The romance we see in those old movies, it only existed if you fit a very specific, very narrow mold. The love stories that define those generations were almost exclusively straight, white, and conforming to rigid social expectations. Everyone else's stories went untold. So we're not trying to go back to the 1950s, but there is something valuable we've lost in the efficiency of modern dating, and it's worth examining. Intentionality. That's what we're really mourning. In the past, asking someone out required courage. You had to approach them face to face, risk public rejection, put yourself out there in a real, vulnerable way. Now, you can swipe from bed, from the bathroom, while watching TV, while on a date with someone else. There's no stakes, no courage required, no real vulnerability. Dates required effort. You had to plan something, choose a place, actually show up, make conversation without the crutch of constantly checking your phone for escape. The low barrier to entry in modern dating has, paradoxically, devalued the interactions themselves. When you can match with 50 people in an hour, why invest time in deeply getting to know any single one of them? Research shows that people who meet organically, through friends, at work, and through shared hobbies, report higher relationship satisfaction than those who meet on apps. And researchers think it's because there's already a foundation, shared context, common values. You're not just a profile. You're a real person in a real social network. There's also accountability. If you ghosted someone in the 80s or 90s, you might run into them at the local hangout. Your mutual friends would ask what happened. There were social consequences. Now, you can just unmatch, block, pretend that person never existed. No consequences, no closure, no accountability to anyone but yourself. When you meet someone at a book club, you already know you share at least one interest. You've seen them interact with others. You've observed their personality in a natural setting. You have context. On a dating app, all you have is what they choose to show you. The version of themselves they think will get the most matches. The highlight reel, the performance. So yes, maybe we're romanticizing the past. Maybe we're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, forgetting all the restrictions and injustices that came with it. But maybe we're also recognizing that in our rush toward efficiency and choice and convenience, we've lost something valuable: the intentionality, the effort, the courage it takes to really put yourself out there. And that loss, it deserves to be acknowledged. But before you delete every dating app and resign yourself to dying alone with 17 cats, let's talk about something important. Dating apps can work. Epic love stories do happen in the digital age. Real, meaningful, lasting relationships are being built through these platforms. Meet Sarah and James. They matched on Hinge in 2023. But here's what made their story different. Instead of texting for weeks, building up unrealistic expectations, James suggested they meet for coffee within the first week. They talked for 4 hours, closed down the cafe. They've been together ever since. Or Alex and Morgan, who matched on a niche app for book lovers. Their first date was at an independent bookstore, where they each picked out a book for the other person. They bonded over fantasy novels and conflicting opinions about endings. They're now engaged. Chen and Maria matched on Tinder. Yes, Tinder. The app everyone loves to hate. But they approached it differently. They were honest about what they wanted. They asked real questions. They took it slow. Now they're planning a life together. So, what do all these success stories have in common? They use the app as a tool, a way to meet someone, not as the relationship itself. Here's what actually works in the digital dating world. First, be intentional. Don't just swipe on everyone. Actually read profiles. Look for shared values, not just shared interests. A love of hiking is nice. Compatible life goals matter more. Create a profile that shows who you really are, not who you think people want you to be. The right person will be attracted to authenticity. Second, move offline quickly. If someone seems promising, suggest meeting within the first week. Video calls work too, if you're far apart or want to feel safer. The point is to see if the chemistry translates to real life before you've built up months of fantasy, before you've fallen in love with an idea instead of a person. Third, quality over quantity. Set a time limit, maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day. Focus on having meaningful conversations with a few people rather than surface-level chats with dozens. Ask real questions. What's something you believed as a child that you don't anymore? What's a problem you're trying to solve in your life right now? Go deeper than what do you do for work. Fourth, be honest about your intentions. If you're looking for something casual, say so. If you want a serious relationship, own it. The right person will appreciate the clarity. Most dating app disasters come from mismatched expectations. One person thinks they're building towards something. The other is just passing time. Clear communication from the start saves everyone heartache. And fifth, don't only rely on apps. Join a hobby group. Take a class in something you're interested in. Go to community events. Ask your friends to introduce you to people. The best relationships often happen when you're not actively looking for them. They happen when you're living your life fully, pursuing your interests, being authentically yourself. The apps can be part of that ecosystem, but they shouldn't be the only part. And they definitely shouldn't consume your life or make you feel worse about yourself. If an app makes you feel anxious, inadequate, or burnt out, delete it. Take a break. Your mental health is more important than any potential match. So here's the truth, we don't have to choose between modern convenience and classic romance. We can have both. We can use dating apps, but approach them with the intentionality of a handwritten letter. We can embrace the efficiency of technology while demanding the depth of a slow burn love story. What does this actually look like in practice? Instead of texting for weeks, suggest a phone call, hear their voice, have a real conversation where you're not editing every response, overthinking every emoji. Instead of the generic wanna grab drinks, actually plan something thoughtful. If they mention loving art, suggest a museum. If they're into books, meet at an independent bookstore. Show them you paid attention. Instead of playing it cool and waiting 3 days to text back like it's still 1999, be authentic. If you enjoyed your time with them, tell them. Life's too short for games. Instead of keeping your options open with multiple people indefinitely, give promising connections your full attention. See where they go. You can't build real intimacy while you're hedging your bets. Bring back the grand gesture, not the expensive, over-the-top performative kind. The personal kind. Maybe it's remembering their favorite coffee order. Maybe it's writing them an actual note. Yes, on paper. Telling them what you appreciate about them. Maybe it's creating a playlist of songs that remind you of them. Maybe it's planning a date around something they mentioned once in passing. The grand gesture isn't about the money or the spectacle. It's about showing someone, I see you, I hear you. I was paying attention. You matter to me. Be vulnerable. Share the real you, not just the highlight reel. Talk about your fears, your failures, your weird quirks. The right person will love you more for it, not less. The enemies to lovers arc? It doesn't have to be literal enemies. It's about finding someone who challenges you, who doesn't just agree with everything you say, who makes you think and grow. Someone who sees through your carefully curated exterior to the messy, complicated, beautiful person underneath. And the slow burn? It can absolutely happen in modern dating. It just means not rushing into labels or intimacy before you've built a foundation. Letting attraction deepen over time instead of expecting instant chemistry. Maybe your first date is a right swipe, but your second date is a long walk where you talk for hours. Your third is cooking dinner together. Your fourth is meeting each other's friends. You're building something brick by brick. Prioritize in-person time, shared experiences, adventures that become inside jokes, quiet moments that don't need to be photographed or posted. On your dates, put your phones away, be present, look at them, listen to them, let the world fade away for a few hours. Because here's the secret. The app might introduce you, but it can't build a relationship. Only you can do that. Through time, through presence, through choosing each other again and again. Some of the most beautiful love stories of this generation started with a right swipe. Some started at a friend's wedding, some started in a Reddit comment section or a Zoom meeting or a grocery store. The beginning doesn't define the story, what you do with it does. So, can modern dating truly rival the timeless love stories we grew up idolizing? Here's what we've learned. The question itself is wrong. We're not in competition with the past. We're not trying to recreate something that existed in a completely different world with completely different rules. We have something previous generations didn't. Freedom to love who we want, ability to connect across distances, access to people we never would have met otherwise, protection from relationships that don't serve us. But we've also lost something, the intentionality, the courage, the willingness to be vulnerable and risk rejection, the patience to let love develop slowly. The solution isn't to go backward, it's to move forward intentionally. To use technology without letting it use us, to embrace efficiency without sacrificing depth, to enjoy convenience without losing connection. Because here's the truth. Romeo and Juliet had balcony conversations. We have FaceTime. Elizabeth and Darcy had dance cards and formal balls. We have dating apps and coffee shops. The tools change, but the essential ingredients of love, they're timeless. Vulnerability, honesty, effort, time, presence. These things don't expire. They don't become outdated. They don't need to be upgraded or optimized. The dating app is just the meet cute and just the first page of the story. What you write in the chapters that follow, that's entirely up to you. You can swipe mindlessly through hundreds of faces and wonder why nothing feels real, or you can approach each potential connection with intention, presence, and genuine curiosity about another human being. You can ghost people because it's easier than being honest, or you can practice the courage of difficult conversations, even when they're uncomfortable. You can curate the perfect profile and hide who you really are, or you can show up authentically and trust that the right person will love you for it. You can keep your options open forever, always wondering if someone better is one more swipe away, or you can give someone wonderful your full attention and see what you can build together. You can let the worst of modern dating make you cynical about love itself, or you can remember that behind every profile is a real person with hopes and dreams and fears just like yours. True love stories can still unfold, epic romances still happen, soul-stirring connections are still being made every single day. Maybe yours starts with a right swipe. Maybe it starts at a friend's party. Maybe it starts in line at a coffee shop when you both reach for the last blueberry muffin. The point is, it starts with you choosing to show up authentically, to risk getting hurt, to invest in building something real, to believe that you deserve a love story worth telling. So yes, use the apps if you want, but don't let them define your worth. Don't let them make you cruel or careless. Don't let the ease of disappearing make you forget that every person you match with is someone's whole world. Approach each connection with the care and intention you'd bring to writing a love letter. Even if it doesn't work out, even if they're not your person, practice being the kind of person who treats others with dignity and kindness. Because that's how you find love, not by swiping perfectly or saying the right things or having the best profile, but by being someone worth finding, by showing up fully, by being brave enough to be real. The love stories of this generation won't look like the ones from the 90s. They won't look like Pride and Prejudice or The Notebook or You've Got Mail. They'll look like us. Messy and complicated and real, starting with a swipe or a DM or a chance encounter, developed through late night phone calls and thoughtful dates and vulnerable conversations, built on a foundation of mutual respect, genuine interest, and the courage to keep showing up. And they'll be just as epic, just as meaningful, just as worth fighting for. You deserve a love story worth telling, so go out there and write one.